Back like I never left. It's your boy Dame. Story time, episode 8 of 14. We are more than halfway there. For those just tapping in, and what's today? Let me see the date. It's the 17th. In 7 days, the first anniversary of my first book, My Baby, The Beauty of Being Wrong. Go get that right now out in stores, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. Can link me for the book. 7 days, it'll be my first anniversary of My Baby. So from 14 days prior to that day, I started story time mode because we got 14 chapters in The Beauty of Being Wrong. So I give y'all 14 stories, directly taking excerpts from the chapter, reading them and breaking them down for y'all to dissect, just to give y'all a little bit of insight on my baby. You feel me? You feel me? A lot of people get, you feel me, babies and then they want to show them off to the world. This is no different. You know what I'm saying? It's a different level of birth. I ain't birth a child, but you birth a creation. You feel me? A concept, and then that thing, you take pride and joy in that, just like the ones who go win, 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 all in your motherfucking face. So with that being said, I had to do chapter by chapter breakdown until my first birthday of my first baby. Today's chapter 8, The Ugly of Confirmation Bias. The ugly of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, for one, is just when you see something that affirms your belief. So, for example, you think, let's say, what's a prejudice I'll let you niggas breathe with? You think Asians are really smart. I use Asians because I use Asians in a context. Think Asians are really smart. So when you see somebody that's Asian and that gets something right in the universe, you're like, oh, that's because they're smart. It's confirmation bias. The ugly, I'm going to let you guys in on it right now as we read this excerpt. Let's get into it. Confirmation bias doesn't leave much room for accepting potential wrongness, as it self-explains its purpose of confirming a belief held by a relative subject. This is one of the stepping stones in developing a severe case of cognitive dissonance. So confirmation bias leads to cognitive dissonance. Just like cognitive dissonance, we all fall victim to our own confirmation bias at some point. Allow me to illustrate further. In America, just as in any culture, we have prejudices. Now, before we do what we do as humans, by holding illusionary connotations to words, let's break down what prejudice is, at least on our general plane. Prejudices are preconceived notions about someone or something based on inexperience. So prejudices come from not experiencing what one is being prejudiced about. So people develop prejudice from anecdotes told to them, so rumors, media portrayals, TV, and cultural influence, society. So these things help shape people's prejudices about certain things if you haven't met those certain things or certain people. For example, many Americans uphold the prejudice idea that Asians can't drive. I heard this shit so much in my life, you know what I'm saying? Oh, Asians can't drive. I don't know where it came from. I just heard it through the construct. I can see the erroneousness of this prejudice, even as I am stating it. However, you'd be surprised by how many people believe this notion to be true. The problem in society is that people develop prejudices and then go out to the world to perceive their prejudice bias. What I mean is, when you have a prejudice, then you believe that prejudice, you now, every subsequent event after that shapes differently based on your belief. So because you have these beliefs, when you go out and you see an event, like let's say an Asian just driving well, it shapes that event and skews it to your bias because you always thought they couldn't drive. So now you're surprised when you see a mother. Oh my God, an Asian is driving good. This is crazy. Once a belief is positioned in the mind, it then uses experience, again, the subsequent events, to justify that stance. As a result, whenever Americans see an Asian who makes a mistake behind the wheel, they rationalize the mishap by saying it's because he's Asian. So the same way you see a good driver and you surprised, you see some Asian get in a car accident and you like, oh, it would be him and motherfucking Asian. Motherfucking Asians can't drive. Confirmation bias affirming a prejudice that may not be as sound as you think. You know what I'm saying? It could be sound, it's all about deduction in the surface to see whether or not something is sound. But the point being is, in this book, I'm illustrating how confirmation bias can even enhance your prejudices, which again come from a lack of experience. But when we see many Asian drivers drive well in traffic, we ignore them because they don't conform to our biases or prejudices. Furthermore, when a non-Asian driver makes a mistake, we never think to attribute it to their ethnic predisposition because we've never created a prejudice to do as such. So white man get in an accident, black man get in an accident. We don't say, oh man, it's because black people can't drive. Or it's because white folks can't drive. Because we haven't created that prejudice. So in that instance, our confirmation bias is neither confirmed or denied. There's no prejudice belief that we stand on to where that event differs in outlook. You know what I'm saying? This shows the ugly of confirmation bias while revealing to us the treacherous nature of our minds. Without using your present moments to confirm your prior biases, you can properly assess the object or subject at hand without reducing it to your implicit or explicit viewpoint. That is heat! Let me bring it back. Without using your present moments, so whatever you're dealing with now, to confirm your prior biases. So when you're looking at something or dealing with something presently, don't factor in your prior biases to discern, you feel me, the present moment. So because you're reducing your bias, you now look at the subject or object for what it is rather than what you thought it was. You know what I'm saying? So the next time you see an Asian in a car accident, you won't make a snap judgment that implies people from a whole continent are inferior drivers. Instead, you may be able to better assess the current moment when suppressing your biases. It will allow much more rational outlooks as to why the car accident took place, as opposed to just blaming it on the person's race. The accident may have not even been the Asian's fault, despite your hasty conclusion. Reducing our conclusion to our own biases can leave us with slim pickings in regards to potential outlooks, making the pool of meaning less valuable. Fortunately, some biases, such as believing Asians can't drive, have little to no grounds. Still, if we don't apply critical thought in these instances, we may hold on to these flawed, ignorant notions. Chapter 8, The Ugly of Confirmation Bias. When you have your beliefs, unconsciously, the brain will look at incidents subsequent and try to affirm those beliefs. That's why niggas like, see, I told you. Whenever they see something that supports their position, you get the I told you so nigga out there. Oh, see, I told you. That's how it go. That's what it is. And then as a consequence, when you believe something so firmly, the moments in which support the belief stick out, and the moments that don't support the belief, it's like they hide under the bushes to you because you don't want to see them. You already believe that, let's say, black people are rude. So when you see nice black people, you kind of overlook it because it's an exception to the rule in your opinion. It doesn't affirm to your notion or your beliefs. Therefore, it's like, okay, yeah, it's an anomaly. You don't pay attention as much, but when a black person is rude, I told you so, nigga, come out there. Oh, see, there it is again. I see it so much. The confirmation bias is implicit, it's strong, it's dangerous, which is why it's ugly in many cases. You know what I'm saying? I think this is another important chapter for people to process because everybody has confirmation bias. Everybody has cognitive dissonance, which is why I put both of them in a book. And with that being said, this closes out story time, man. Don't let your confirmation bias take over the way you see shit. That's simple, man. It's your boy Dame. Peace.